I'm Chef John Folse. Food is so much more than nutrition here in the South. Every weekend on Louisiana's back roads and bayous, our festivals celebrate the food, music, and cultures that make us unique. Why not join me as we visit the fairs and festivals of our state and cook up another great Taste of Louisiana?
Funding for this program is provided by the Louisiana Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism. Vieux Carré, Zydeco, Atchafalaya, Natchitoches. In Louisiana, you'll say things you've never seen before.
Had you been living in Morgan City, Louisiana back in 1936, chances are pretty good you would have made a living either out on oil rigs or shrimping in Barbeque Bay. These two industries are precious to the people of this little Cajun town, and for that reason, each Labor Day weekend, they're celebrated in a very special way. Barbeque Bay comes alive in a Mardi Gras fashion with shrimp trawlers, pleasure crafts, and even 200 feet long offshore oil industry boats festively decorated for today's blessing of the fleet. Thousands of visitors converge on bridges and banks overlooking this Gulf of Mexico outlet to view the boats as they line up for the annual Shrimp and Petroleum Festival parade. Tidewater Marine furnishes two of their large petroleum cargo boats, each hosting a member of this year's festival royalty. Over 475 passengers, myself included, boarded the Queen's boat as it filed past a smaller craft used by the local parish priest as he blessed the vessels as they paraded by. Once blessed, guaranteeing a great shrimping season and oil exploration, the boats and their occupants prepared to take part in what has become an annual tradition here on Barbeque Bay. The ship containing the queens and maids representing festivals and beauty pageants from throughout Louisiana maneuver into position to welcome the king of this year's celebration, who occupies his own boat out here in the bay. The hundreds of guests hosted on these vessels by their captains eagerly await an exercise that may be considered a little scary in other parts of the country, but one that is very well rehearsed and quite safe here. The two huge crafts of the king and queen position themselves nose to nose in the center of the bay. When only a few feet apart, a bottle of champagne and cut crystal glasses are handed across the bows for the toasting of this year's royalty. This year's queen is Dawn Baker, who was born and reared here in this little town, and she is certainly deserving of this year's honor. As the boats touch, the toast is offered, and all vessels in the bay signal the festivities by sounding their foghorns in unison. When done, the king and queen kiss goodbye, and the boats back away from formation, and naturally, the eating and partying begins. I was very, very happy to be a guest on the Queen's boat, and I guess you can imagine just how difficult it is to get an invitation to be on one of these ships. But I was quite happy to take part in the festivities. Over 600 pounds of jumbo shrimp are perfectly seasoned and served with boiled corn and potatoes, and were consumed in record time as the bands played and people danced as they continued to eat. Oh, Lord, look at that. What about that one big one way in the corner? Can I get that one big one? Ah, that's it right there. All right. Woo! Immediately following the blessing of the fleet, a parade rolls down Main Street, led by this year's King and Queen. What would a Louisiana festival be without great food, representing every variety known to the Louisiana palate? This booth is sauteing volumes of sweet Bermuda onions to top their sought-after Cajun burgers. I happened upon a church group serving their own special recipe, secret of course, for fried alligator. The meat is harvested from farm-raised alligators and is marinated overnight to ensure tenderness. It is then coated in a special blend of seasoned flour and deep-fried to perfection. I love fried alligator, and I only wish I could have twisted their arms for the recipe that created such a tender, juicy meat. Food festivals celebrating the bounty of one's resources isn't unique to Louisiana. but the fun and festivities that accompany these Bayou Country festivals are indeed quite unique. Over 400 festivals in Louisiana, and here's one town that has a festival for two different entities in our culture, petroleum and shrimp. And people are probably asking, why food and oil? Well, first of all, of course, oil is one of the greatest industries in Louisiana, especially in that part of the country, and most of the people for so many years made a living in the oil industry that obviously they wanted to celebrate that industry. And being right on the Gulf of Mexico, right on Barbeque Bay, hey, what the heck, Shrimp Festival, needless to say. Shrimp, even though it's so popular in Louisiana, I should mention that for so many years, people stayed away from it. It was so perishable, no ice, no refrigeration, that most people said, my God, by the time we get it, it'll be spoiled, just keep it off of the menus. And that's basically what happened. So even here in Louisiana, where we had so much shrimp, if you were going to eat it, it was going to probably be dried out in the sun and then packaged and eaten as almost a little hors d'oeuvre or a little appetizer. We created many dishes using the dried shrimp, but the fresh shrimp didn't become very popular in Louisiana or the rest of the world until refrigeration. The Gulf of Mexico and America, we produce probably, about 500 million pounds of shrimp a year, and of course the United States consumes more shrimp than anyone else in the world, and that's not hard to believe, because I think here in Louisiana we consume probably about 3/4 of that 500 million pounds. My guest coming to visit with me in the kitchen is a guy who I know personally consumes most of that shrimp. Mark Felice is the owner, 4th generation, I think, of the very famous Pascal Manale's restaurant in New Orleans, and they're famous for a dish that is world-renowned, and he's going to come in and not only talk about that, but talk about shrimp in general. I want you to take a look at my little cutting board here, because I have a couple different varieties of shrimp and scampi and prawns, and I just want to show you some of the things we have to work with. Here we have some of the white shrimp, the gray shrimp of the Gulf of Mexico. That's the fat right here. That's what I really like, and that's one of the reasons for barbecuing shrimp with the heads on, is to get all of that good flavor. Of course, we can get shrimp peeled and deveined, some of it in the stores, even already poached, these little bitty sea bobs, which we get out of the Gulf of Mexico. And then, of course, this right here is some tiger prawns. Now, if you want to know the difference between shrimp and prawn and scampi, they are different. A lot of people will saute shrimp and say this is shrimp scampi, but actually scampi and prawns are in the same family. In fact, the Dublin Bay prawn is what most people consider the prawn and the scampi. They're in the same family. Shrimp, on the other hand, are more of the white or the pink or the gray, softer body. It's not as spiny, not as long claws, and you find them mostly in the fresh waters in the Gulf of Mexico. So that's one thing that needs to be cleared up. The first dish that I'm going to make for you today, a dish that I really love to cook in our restaurant, it's a dish that's very popular, is a dish called barbecued shrimp. Now, even though Manale's restaurant is going to be the most famous restaurant in the world for barbecued shrimp, every restaurant in Louisiana and most restaurants in the country have some recipe for barbecued shrimp, and I know Mark's going to want to talk to us about that just a little bit later. I'm going to start the barbecued shrimp with I'm going to kick this fire way up here, with a little bit of olive oil, because we definitely want to get that olive oil flavor into the pot, and I'm going to squeeze a little bit of my buttery flavored oil into it just to kind of mellow out that olive oil flavor a little bit. You can put butter, or you can leave it out and just go with straight olive oil. It doesn't really matter. I like to add a little butter to it. Now I'm also going to put some garlic. What would barbecued shrimp be without garlic in Louisiana? So I'm going to throw some of that in and simmer. I wish you could smell just the garlic and the olive oil coming together. What natural flavors, really, really nice flavors coming together very quickly. And then, of course, I'm going to put some of the color, because this is a colorful dish. It's not really what you would consider barbecue if you think about the red-based barbecue sauces. This is more of an olive oil and garlic, and of course some of these pretty peppers all going in to flavor this dish. Now I'm going to put basil, thyme, a little oregano. Let your herbs and spices go wild. Boy, this really starts to flavor this dish quickly. Now I'm going to put in the really wonderful shrimp that's gonna cook in this olive oil. And I want you to get a good look at this, because these shrimp, the heads are on, but the tails are peeled. I'm peeling mine. Now, this is, of course, my own variation of the dish. Most restaurants barbecuing shrimp barbecue the shrimp in the shell. I'll leave the heads on because that's a very important component of barbecued shrimp, but I actually peel them first to make sure that it's a little bit easier for the guests to eat. However, most people will say quickly, that's part of it. Get the olive oil and the butter on your hands and really get that good flavor so you can suck your fingers as you're eating them. But look how fast they cook. They cook very, very quickly. You know, the shrimp seasons in Louisiana, we have the brown shrimp season in the Gulf of Mexico, and we have the white shrimp season. The brown shrimp season is the first. It's in the spring and early summer, going to May. And then the white shrimp season, which I think is the most preferred shrimp, is actually in the summer and fall. So we do have seasons on the shrimp and quotas and everything else. We can't take all of the shrimp out of the Gulf of Mexico. Look how pretty these are. Now, once that's done, I'm going to come in with a little bit beer. This is an amber beer. I'm going to just put a little bit in to add a little more flavor. Squeeze some lemon juice in it. It's a little touch. And then I'm going to come back in with Worcestershire sauce. Just imagine all of those flavors here. The Worcestershire will color the sauce a brown color. And then, of course, some nice Louisiana pepper sauce to really give it that great spicy flavor. A bay leaf gives it the anise. And then, of course, season how you'd like. A little cracked black pepper, a little salt. All of those things are really nice. Now, to finish it, I'm going to always mount just a little touch of butter into the finished dish right as the dish is just about done. I'm going to take some whole butter, and I'm going to add the whole butter right down into the skillet like this and mount it. And when I say mount it, I'm just going to kind of blend it around to make sure that I get that good butter flavor down into the sauce. This will kind of thicken the sauce just a little bit. Look how nice that is. Look at the colors in that skillet, how pretty. And then, of course, while that's simmering away, I have to show you how we're going to plate it up because this is really unique. What a great big bowl of shrimp here. I'm going to plate it up on a great platter. And, of course, you always want to serve it on French bread, with French bread so you can sop up all of that good flavor. I'm going to take the shrimp. Look how nice this is. And just put the tails all in one direction. Now, who wouldn't love this dish? Now, most of you, as I said, would probably say, well, if it's barbecued, it should probably have some of that good barbecue sauce on it, red sauce, but this is typical of the type of recipe that Manale does, even though it's secret. I'm going to have to try to ask Mark why he's not giving that recipe out. And then, of course, spoon some of that nice sauce, right? I wish you could smell that beer and all coming out here. Isn't that beautiful? And then just spoon a touch of that sauce right onto the top of the shrimp. And when you go ahead and dip that French bread in, hey, do I have to tell you anything else about it? It's going to be just a wonderful dish. Put it on your counter and decorate it with a little purple cabbage, some of those kind of things. Really a nice dish coming from the city of New Orleans, coming from the Shrimp and Petroleum Festival. Really, really nice. Now, another dish that I want to do for you, a dish that I'm real happy with because I think it's one of the best dishes of Louisiana using shrimp, and that is ratatouille. And what I like about ratatouille is that it represents all of the different cultures that settle Louisiana. We have, 7 different nations, from the Spanish, the French, the Germans, the Italians, all of them coming here. And if there's anything that they all loved, it was ratatouille, coming from the Mediterranean area, coming from the south of France and all of that. So ratatouille, that good mixture of vegetables using squash and zucchini squash, eggplant, all of those wonderful things were very present everywhere in all of the menus, all of the tables of Cajun and Creole country. The way we began, and I want to show you this platter because it has all of the nice flavors of the ratatouille, but at the same time, it incorporates shrimp again, a lot of nice shrimp. Here's the zucchini, the eggplant. We leave the peelings on. The peelings have to stay on. Summer squash, olives, tomatoes, all of the nice herbs, basil, thyme. And, of course, this is tasso. This is the spicy ham of the Cajuns to give it the Cajun ratatouille flavor. So I'm going to go ahead now and add the first of my flavors to it. I'm going to add the ham because that's going to give that good smoky flavor. And then I'm going to throw the shrimp down into the skillet. Let this saute for just a second because I want all of this to cook and start to develop that flavor while I throw in my onions, celery, bell pepper, the Trinity, onion, celery, bell pepper, all those nice flavors. And, of course, again, red bell pepper, yellow bell pepper, green. Just kind of go wild with the colors. That's what ratatouille is all about, pretty colors. some green bell pepper, and of course garlic. We have to have a lot of garlic. And once the garlic goes in, then this pan kind of settles down a little bit, and I'll add all of my other vegetables to it. So now I can come in with the eggplant. It doesn't take long. This is an al dente type dish. You don't want to overcook your vegetables. Put them all in the skillet. It cooks very quickly. All the squashes, I'm going to put a little eggplant. Look how pretty the colors are here. And then, of course, all of the nice herbs. I have to put some pretty herbs here. Fresh thyme. Basil is wonderful in this dish. A little oregano, too. And then just kind of quickly stir fry all of these vegetables for a minute. You don't want to overcook them, as I say. Look how nice that is. And to put some liquid in the pan, you want to use a couple different things. You want to put a little touch of stock in it. I'm going to use some fresh tomato sauce. I'm going to put tomato sauce right down in the ratatouille. Now, most people would come back and bake this, but I'm not going to bake it. I'm going to let all of this flavor sit and simmer in the saute pan for just a minute. You can see how that's all simmering nicely. And if you want to bake it, just go ahead and add a little stock. You can put a little breadcrumbs in it if you want to. Put it in the oven just for about 15 to 20 minutes. But hey, remember, do not overcook this dish. How do I season it? Well, again, a little salt, a little cracked pepper. You can put a little cheese in it if you want to. Ratatouille, very simply, has about 1,000 variations. But the most important thing is the freshness of the vegetables, the beautiful colors in the pot. Look how pretty that is. And remember the basil flavor, a lot of nice basil flavor going into it. Now, let's assume that this is cooked here for, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes. All the vegetables are nice and tender. They're nice and crunchy. And then you would probably want to serve it up in a bowl of some type. Let me see if I have a little bowl. I do. And I want you to take a look at this bowl. Just take a look at this thing, because that's what you should serve ratatouille in. Look at that eggplant coming out of the bottom of the bowl, just jumping out at you. And, of course, you want to put eggplant right down, put the ratatouille right down over that, and it's going to be a magnificent presentation. Look how quickly it cooked. Of course, I would say that it's really ready to eat right at this point. It could go just a fraction longer, but in actuality, this is probably good enough. Just a beautiful dish, and you can finish it with some green onions or parsley, any of those wonderful tastes. Now, what else would I serve with this at a shrimp festival party or picnic? Well, take a look at this. I have my boiled shrimp, which is boiled shrimp, corn, and potatoes. And then, of course, right next to that, my wonderful shrimp viola, jumbo shrimp stuffed with crab meat and crawfish and tasso ham. And, of course, a little sauce right on the bottom of the plate. Well, I have a really great surprise for you with Mark Felice coming into the kitchen right now, the owner of Manale's restaurant, the creator of Barbecue Shrimp. How you doing?
All right, John. How you doing?
Nice
to see you.
Nice to see you. How's everything at the restaurant?
Great.
Good. Well, it's so nice to have you with us today, and I appreciate you coming. And now, I'll try to twist your arm for barbecued shrimp for the recipe for so long. How did I do with this one here?
I think you did very good. I can't wait to sample it.
Well, we will. Well, I see you have your apron there.
Yeah, you told me we were going to do a little cooking.
Absolutely. Come over here, and we're going to cook a little bit, because I think it's this is one of these dishes that you sent me, and I've sampled in the restaurant, and I really feel that it's a dish that we ought to share with everybody, because it is one of the dishes that y'all do, and a dish that that is not only simple, but at the same time so doggone flavorful, a shrimp and penne pasta dish. And we're going to start right here. You're going to stir this for me? Right there. In this little black skillet, I'm going to put some olive oil. This is one of Mark's recipes, and he sent it to me, and I've been using it. It's fantastic. So I'm putting a little olive oil in the skillet. Then I'm going to go ahead with a little of that shallots and garlic. So I'm going to drop that in. How long has... when I think of Manale's restaurant, I think of a restaurant that's been around New Orleans forever. How long has the restaurant actually been there?
Since 1913.
1913. Same family?
Same family. We're running in the 4th generation now.
Is that right? 4th generation.
Yeah.
All brothers and sisters involved?
Yeah, I have 2 brothers, Sandy and Bob, and my sister Jenny, and we all active in the business, and we all run the business.
Well, what a fabulous restaurant. I want to catch everybody up with what I've done here. A little shallots, a little garlic, tomato. This is roasted red bell pepper. Of course, green bell pepper for pretty color, because this is a pasta dish, so you're going to want to have some nice colors in it. This is the flaked red peppers. And then, of course, I'm going to come right in with the shrimp. How about stirring it? Y'all use small shrimp in here? Or?
No, we use a 2125 tail.
Yeah.
We peel it and,
Right.
and butterfly it.
So you try to get just a little bigger shrimp in it.
Yeah, when we do sauteed shrimp, we like to premiere the shrimp.
To
So we
really
like to
give it
use
the
a
go.
big shrimp.
Okay, now, assuming that this is cooked just a little while, why don't you pull that off of the fire? I'm going to add a little brandy to it because we want to flame it, and you have to take it off of the fire, so you just kind of tilt it in there so that we get all right. So we get that good brandy flavor in the shrimp. And then, again, assuming that this would have cooked right here for a couple of minutes, you can stir that around now. I'm going to add the pasta to it, even though it's not cooked all the way, just to give everybody an idea how it's done. You would stir that into it. And then right at the end, you would put a little bit cheese down in there. Just kind of sprinkle that cheese in. And, of course, shrimp only take a couple minutes to cook. You don't have to overcook them. You want to keep that nice juiciness in there. And then you could come in with a little hot sauce, a little green onions, whatever you want,
That's
right?
That's right.
Okay, good. Well, I'm going to just leave this sitting on the stove. Why don't we go over here and chat a little bit about Manales and about all of those great things that y'all do at the restaurant. Have a seat right here. 13?
Yeah.
Oh my! How did the dish? How did barbecue shrimp? It's world renowned. Everybody knows about it. No matter where you go, I've traveled all over the world and I find recipes for it. How did it begin?
Well, actually, it was through a friend of my grandfather's. He was from Chicago, and he picked up on an idea somewhere, and he came and told my grandfather about this idea he had for cooking shrimp, and he said, you know, Pas, you need to try this out. That's what all his friends called him, was Pas. His name was Pascal. So they went in the kitchen, and my great-uncle Jake was running the kitchen, and they went back there and put together this barbecue shrimp dish, and drew it together and came out and served it to his friends, who he had over every Sunday at the restaurant, and he kind of pulled a surprise. He served it instead of his normal Italian fare.
Right.
And everyone fell in love with it. So the next day he put it on the menu, and that was in the early 50s, about 53, and it's been on our menu ever since.
Now, you know, when you think of a dish that was founded in your restaurant in 1950, and really you can travel all over the world, all over the United States certainly, and find that dish. And I often think, how many pounds, how many tons must be of shrimp that y'all go through in that restaurant a year?
Well, in our restaurant, we probably, for barbecue shrimp alone, we probably go through over 30,000 pounds a year.
15 tons?
Yeah.
What size?
We try to, with a 10-15 is our ideal size, but because it's a natural product, we sometimes have to use a 16-20. Right now I'm using some U12s, which are real big shrimp.
The real giant
real
shrimp.
Big shrimp.
Real giant shrimp.
They caught way deep offshore.
I mentioned just now about how it would be easy to confuse barbecue, and some people may get a little leery about getting a plate of these beautiful shrimp with the olive oil and say, whoa, this isn't barbecued shrimp. I'm looking for some tomato sauce here. Do y'all get that at all?
Every once in a while, once every 500 or 1,000 dishes, we might have someone say, well, that wasn't barbecue. You know, they're looking for a traditional smoke flavor barbecue. And but that's our version of what we call barbecue shrimp, and we invented it, and that's...
Why the head? Why is it so necessary to cook the shrimp head on? I know that must scare people away who are not from Louisiana.
Yeah, every once in a while we do get some people, they can't eat them. They have the eyes looking at them, and they refuse to eat anything with eyes on it. But as you mentioned earlier, the head contains the fat, and that's the necessary product or ingredient to really bring out the flavor in the sauce, and that's what makes the dish so wonderful.
I guess the greatest form of flattery in the world is when people try to emulate what you do. I know our good friend Paul Prudhomme, everybody in the world did black and red fish. Does it flatter y'all, or does it upset you that every restaurant is doing a barbecued shrimp?
Actually, I think it's quite a flattering thing, and it kind of shows the tenacity of this dish, because this dish is not a fad. It's been going on for 35, 40 years, and actually I think it's more popular today, both locally in New Orleans and nationally, than it ever was before.
Right. Do you ever worry, and I'm sure you do, about running out of the perfect size shrimp, the head-on shrimp?
Sure, I worry about that quite often, and it's a tough challenge just to keep enough shrimp in reserve or in stock for us to use, because there again, it's a natural product, and you never know what's going to be produced that year.
Right. Well, I want to make sure you keep them on the menu. I want to make sure you keep the large ones on the menu because I'm coming to eat with you in about another week, and I want to make sure that you hand pick a couple of those big ones.
I'll be sure to do that.
And keep up the great work at Manale's restaurant. I'll see you soon, and thanks for coming and visit with us today.
John.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for stopping by as we cook up some of the foods of the fairs and festivals, and come again as we cook up more great Taste of Louisiana. We're going to eat barbecue shrimp and suck the heads.
Funding for this program is provided by the Louisiana Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism. Vieux Carré, Zydeco, Atchafalaya, Natchitoches. In Louisiana, you'll say things you've never seen before.
More information on events in Louisiana can be yours at no cost. Call 1-800-36-GUMBO for your free Louisiana tour guide listing festivals, attractions, and points of interest throughout the Bayou State. Chef John Folse's Louisiana Sampler, a companion cookbook to this series, contains the colorful history and culinary secrets behind Louisiana's most exciting festivals. For your copy, send a check or money order for $19.95 to Louisiana Public Broadcasting. Or use your credit card by calling toll-free 1-800-973-7246.